My name's Denise Lovett, I'm Gunditjmara, and I work in the, at Gunditj Mirring, Aboriginal Cultural Heritage. Gunditj Mirring Traditional Owners Aboriginal Corporation as the Cultural Heritage Compliance Officer. So today we have Amy Saunders, the daughter of Aunty Christina Saunders, and Tracy Onus, the daughter of Aunty Sandra Onus, who are unable to be here due to health reasons. Uncle Jim Burke's an apology, he got called down home for business, family business. Uncle Dennis Rose is an apology, he got called to another conference, and Mick Dobson was coming, and I haven't heard that he's not coming, but he's not here, so obviously he's not here. Okay, so we were sort of late getting our expression in, and once we got it in, we contacted everyone because they all played a role in this outcome, and they all agreed to be part of it, and then over time other things got in the way, but that's okay. We can tell the story, it's an important story. I'd just like to have an indicator of who is aware of the Alcoa court case and who knows about the Alcoa court case. It happened over 40 years ago, so it's a long time ago. So I'm going to hand over to Amy, and she's going to talk about her mum's role, and then Trey's going to talk about her mum's role in it, and then I'll talk about out of that High Court decision, how it got rolled up into a legislation for cultural heritage protection. Did you want to stand up here?
Is this mic on? Yes, this is fine? Okay. My name's Amy Saunders. I'm the doppelganger of my mum. So some people have come up to me a few times and think that, hey, Auntie Tina, they say, Mum would be flattered at 84 to think she looks 57. I'm somewhat almost mortified, but that's okay. I come prepared with menopause anxiety fan, because I will break out in a sweat at some point. It's just a part of being a deadly matriarch. So we do that. As a very young teenager, living with my mum in Portland, and we had lost, my mum lost her beautiful son to a car accident, and 2 years later, her father to old age. And then Aunty Sandra walked in the door to pick up mum's broken pieces. And to fight for country, because there was a big multinational mob coming to town, and they just wanted to take over our beautiful land. And we set up a protest camp, which was fantastic. For me, it was learning the strength of our women. It was learning the strength and beauty of our country. And it was an opportunity to be with my aunt, my mum, my sisters, cousins, to fight for a piece of country that, to this day, the smelter was built. The industrial savages keep coming. The invasion never stopped. And the loss of beautiful countryside, of connection, they still try and take that from us. That the protest was a chance to spend time with all of these beautiful women, all of this beautiful connection and kinship on country to keep fighting. And in the early 80s when that was happening, I remember going to school, in primary school, those times, in those small towns, especially a town like Portland where they have a natural port, so industry is always going to be coming at us. But they would come to the school and pick up the kids and go out to the softwood plantations to talk about the future industry of jobs for us. And then it was Alcoa, It's a Goer stickers they were giving us kids. And they had the big presentation set up in the Civic Hall, and all the school kids from every school in the district would come through and go and look at all the future industry and jobs that we can have. Needless to say, a big mob of my schoolmates going through pot room asthma and cancers, and it's kind of never ending. I keep seeing another schoolmate and there he is, gaunt, skinny and dealing with a cancer diagnosis. We sat on that land for, I don't even know for how long. I remember getting dragged off country by the hair of my head by some copper when I was like 13. And my sister had her legs around my waist and I was linked arm with some other mob either side of me, and the way this copper got me was just by grabbing me by the hair and dragging me to the cop car. When we finally, then things do get hazy. It's a 13-year-old's memory. Lots has happened, a million lifetimes since then. But I remember when we all went to court and they give you the Bible to swear on, and I remember just, because it was children's court, it was the first one up that day, and I remember just going, no, I don't, that's not where I'm from. I will swear on my country, I will swear on land. And then afterwards, that's what we all did, and I was quite proud of that one little moment that I had country to acknowledge, to place my trust and my faith in, and my love in, and my strength from. And so I was very, very proud of that. And coming from, I remember having Mum say to me, you've got to be in school, these mob want you to go back to school. She'd had phone calls and from the Portland High School and saying, hey, she should be in school. And Mum said, oh, you were there standing beside me when someone said that to me, that you should be back getting your education. And you turned to them and said, hey, I'm with my mum and my auntie. I'm in the greatest classroom in the world. So that was pretty cool to have Mum and Auntie Sandra leading the way as strong women on Gunditjmara country to fight against this big behemoth that was coming at us, rolling over our stories, rolling over our yarns, and trying to roll over our connection. But we're here now, grateful to have my sister Tracy by my side and cousin Denise, and with our mums and aunts on our team and pushing us forward to hopefully we tell their stories with integrity and truth and a fierce determination that we will never stop fighting for our country, no matter which way they go. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Tracy Onus-Bamblett. I'm Auntie Sandra Onus' daughter. I suppose I'll start with my experience with the Alcoa case and the colonial violence that we all were met with. It felt like something out of Mississippi Burning. It was that bad. Our windows were always had stones being thrown through it. And the police wouldn't do anything. And a lot of the times it was the police that were committing that colonial violence. I remember very well my brother and I walking home after a blue light disco and just being stopped by the police, chucked in the back of the divvy and taken down to the police station. And my brother, he was bashed. They put us both in a cell next to each other. And we were only teenagers, 13, 14. And they put us in a cell next to each other, and all I could hear was my brother's screams because there was that many jacks in there just bashing him. And back in them days, it was just, even though, and still today, nothing's changed, it's all just more covert. But even at school, everyone at school hated us because of what was going on. Most of the town thought, oh wow, we're going to have a smelter and all the jobs and all this, all these glamorising the smelter as if it was going to save us. But it didn't. We ended up just being attacked physically, mentally. Mum and Auntie Tina, they punched on with everybody, all the white people, men, in pubs because of this case. We were being harassed that much. We ended up having to move because the death threats, you name it. But we never give up. Mum and Auntie Tina, they just fought. They're such strong women. I mean, back in them days, women were just shadows, you know, and especially black women as well, because they were at the bottom of the rung. And just thinking about it just makes me tear up, because the case, I mean, even Mabo, after we won the case, and this is probably a couple of years ago, I was with my mum and she was talking to the Marbos, and they were thanking my mum and Auntie Tina for fighting and getting standing in the court, because it enabled Mabo to go ahead and have standing in there to win the Mabo case. But if Denise wants to touch on that law part, yep. Yeah. Thank you, Denise.
But before...
I knew that was going to go. Right.
So before the court case, there was the environmental effects statement that was published, and it was Dennis, Uncle Dennis Rose, along with Phil Rimmer, and Phil Rimmer was the Aboriginal resource teacher at the Hayward Secondary School, and they had got together and they, on behalf of the Lake Condom Aboriginal Mission Cemetery Committee, because that was the only formal committee that we had at that time, it was way before our organisations that we have now. They used it under that banner to put a response into the environmental effects statement, and it was there was no consultation with any, and Dennis has written these notes for me, no consultation with any of us mob at all prior to the environmental effects statement being released. We also weren't officially invited to respond, and when we did, we were pretty much ignored. The cultural heritage section of the environmental effects statement was littered with inaccuracy and downgraded the importance of some sites. It also covered a very small portion of the proposed smelter. If the EES was inaccurate with the cultural heritage section, what other aspects of it was also inaccurate? E.g., the section about the fluoride states there will be no effect on animals. This has been revealed as lies, as there's been a long-standing problem with the Roos suffering from fluoride emissions. The state government was always determined to proceed with the smelter in Portland, and the environmental effects statement was a whitewash. This was for political reasons, and the government agencies responded in the assessment, raised very few concerns. We didn't raise the issue in our submissions, but we always reckon that if you're going to build a smelter that required huge amounts of electricity, then it would be better to build to the electricity generators and not 500 kilometres away. And they put in power lines for 500 kilometres to connect from up at Gippsland down to Portland. And also the other issue was the huge power subsidies that the government provided. After the EES assessment was released, the companies responsible for the project managing the planning and the construction, Beckton, wanted to meet and started the process with Auntie Sandra and Auntie Tina. So that was the start of it. At that time, Uncle Jim Berg, who was, because it come up under the Relics Act, and Uncle Jim Berg was a warden under that act, but he was also the CEO of the Victorian Aboriginal Legal Service. So when it come to him, he just said, yeah, let's lawyer up. So they did that. They lawyered up and the lawyers that got there and the QCs that got there took it. They took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court threw them out. They said, no. We asked the ladies about what would you think, and they said we had nothing to lose, what we were going to lose. So straight to the High Court they went. They got to the High Court, and it was there that their special interest in cultural heritage was afforded by the High Court. And it wasn't only just Gunditjmara special interest, it could be for all First Nations across Australia, that they have that special interest in that cultural heritage, that is their cultural heritage. And the High Court recognised that. So from that,
7 judges out of 7 judges?
Out of 7 judges, they've got that. They all agreed. So yeah, after that was the creation of legislation, which they took to the Victorian government. The Victorian government said, no, bugger off, we're not going to do it. So then Clive Holding at the time took it to the Commonwealth. And in the Commonwealth Cultural Heritage Protection legislation at that time inserted a Part 2A in that legislation, just for Victoria only. And it had 2 really important aspects within that legislation, and one was the decision makers about cultural heritage belonged to the people, to the First Nations people, to the Aboriginal people. That was their decision making. And the second part was inspectors within the communities. We could be inspectors under that Act, and that gave you the power to enter property, enter country or homes and stop any destruction of cultural heritage. And that was really important because times you'd be driving somewhere and you'd see the bulldozers and you had the power now to go in there. Because, you know, when they were doing Alcoa, people were throwing themselves under the bulldozers to stop the bulldozers, to stop the destruction. So that was really important to 2 pieces that went into the legislation that gave the power to the people in first the decision making, but then also in that had the power to enter places, private places, to stop the threat of cultural heritage destruction. Yeah. So that sat in until 2006 when they brought in the Victorian Aboriginal cultural heritage legislation. When they brought that in, they didn't bring in the inspectorship. That wasn't part of it. During the time under the previous Act, the state government Minister for Aboriginal Affairs suspended the inspectors for misuse of that power. So we were suspended, and it was used when it shouldn't have been used, and yeah, the government's response was, we'll take it and we'll stop everyone from doing it. And when they rolled out the new legislation, it wasn't part of it. If we're aware of cultural heritage under threat to be destroyed, we have to wait till we're invited on that country, into that private landowner place now, yeah. And we have to make sure that we have a cultural heritage compliance officer that works for the state government with us. So it really did lessen down the intent. But that power that's there, that we have now, we have Victoria over under 75% of registered Aboriginal parties which have that statutory authority for cultural heritage management. Yeah. I'll just go back to the ladies and anything further you want to add? We can take some questions.
Yeah, we take some questions, yeah.
Auntie Betty's on the screen now.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Auntie, my Auntie Betty. She, we actually stopped a Invasion Day celebration, and she just went up and grabbed the microphone off the town crier
They have a town
Because we
crier.
still have town criers down home. Bing, ding, ding. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions.
Just wait till you get a mic. Who's got the microphones?
Thanks for your talk. I think I'm more familiar with the legal case than some of the things you talked about in terms of your protest and resistance, and it's great to hear that. But I'd like to, and Amy, when you talked about your brother being bashed in a cell
Tracy,
next to you, would you like to comment on that, like the role of law and the role of protest and resistance?
Well, as best as I can. I've just gone blank. I suppose because it was my mum and Auntie Tina, and because we were the children of them, we were targeted all the time. I mean, the police were just constantly on our back all the time. There was really nothing that we can do because we were just always surrounded by police, and people just wanted us out of town and to forget about the case. Like I said, the violence was shocking. My poor brother, they dislocated his shoulder and everything, and we had to take him to hospital when we got released. But that was a constant thing. They were constantly harassing. I got pulled up walking home from school with my bag, and the copper turned around and pulled me up and started berating. I just started swearing at me and called me a prostitute.
Yeah.
Here I am, 13, 14 years old, and I'm a prostitute. It's like, didn't even know what the word was. Anyway, until I got home and I told my mum, and she went straight down to the police station. She never let anything happen. Like, her and Auntie Tina had to punch on with men all their lives in the town. Not all their lives, but for most of their time that the Alcoa, Onus versus Alcoa case happened, was occurring. My brother, he was thrown off the wharf by a copper. What's his name? The big white lad. George Easton. Yeah.
He was famous for taking kids out of town and just dumping them out.
Dumping them out of the bush to walk back into town. It was just terrible. And that's it. That still sits with me today. My brother's deceased now, but I can still hear him crying for the police to stop bashing him. Yep. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that activism and how it creates an outcome, and it's usually up through a court system, is really, really good. From there, the Alcoa case, there was a settlement for Gunditjmara, which was established. The return of the mission. The return of the mission was part of the 150 celebrations of white settlement. So the government, Kane was the premier at the time, so they returned the mission again to us. And we established the Gunditjmara organisation and started, we had a couple of farms that were purchased with the money from the Alcoa case, and was starting to build. And that was probably our first organisation, and brought together 21 elders that just sort of governed that organisation, and it was then to move into trying to
tourism,
create tourism, that sustainable income business, But still today you'll see when it comes to protecting cultural heritage that there's threats of violence and intimidation all the time. The Mount Arabilis up in just out of Ararat is of concern now. The Brumbies up at Yorta country, and the treatment that Monica Morgan had received by those in support of the Brumbies and wanted them to stay in a national park. Yeah, it doesn't come. It comes with great burden for protecting cultural heritage and protecting country. Yeah, and it's always what they say about that the Rappelus. It was about protecting cultural heritage, and they promoted that there was secret sacred business going on. The report had been done a long time ago, and the place was the significance of the place was recorded a long time ago. Yeah, and we don't have to have people climbing all over our special places that mean a lot to us. We wouldn't allow or support anyone climbing over white churches. We certainly don't accept anyone climbing over our sacred places.
It's imperative that we have our LORE to dictate to the LAW, because as being First Nations people and being caretakers of country, we do see it through an absolutely different lens. We're not we need that protection. When we stand up and say about country, hey, this is really important. You fellas have been here for, 200 odd years, and you haven't stopped going to Bunnings to pick up extra supplies to keep building things. So, let's stop for a minute. Let country talk to you instead of you trying to dictate how it should work for you. We go out wood cutting to get our own firewood, and there's this one of my neighbours comes with us. He's a little Energizer bunny, white fella in his 70s, can't stop him, right? He's cuts, splits, stacks, repeat constantly. And he's deadly. But he goes out and the way I see the bush and the way he sees the bush, we kind of have our little moments where we clash. And occasionally it's just me and him out there because my partner's gone back into town to drop off a load of wood to come back out and bring sandwiches and drinks and stuff, right? So I'm out there with the old white neighbour, and he looks at the bush and he goes, oh, I just think it should be farmed. Meanwhile, there's leeches there sitting up erect and ready to pounce on us as we walk by. There's this little flower is just starting to bloom, and you can eat the tubers of that, and there's a whole other world going on that he's not seeing. He's just seeing cut down that tree, and that should, they should just farm this, and he's just seeing resource. He's not seeing family, and that's what we see every single time we're looking around country. And to try and explain that, I'm currently in a bit of a blue with, I'm the only Koori in my village at the moment fighting against abalone factory proposal for a piece of country that is just only residents in that area. So it's got the billionaire backing, it had the council approval. We won at VCAT, and then it's been overturned by one minister who just said, no, anything, we need to prioritise Victoria's economy. So they forget about the actual mental health of people, because even these white fellas, they're there to protect their homes and their bricks and mortar, and that's cool. I get that, because I'm doing the same. I'm a TO, I'm a homeowner, sorry, I'm a TOHO, traditional owner, homeowner. That's terrible, I just made that up, that's pretty bad. But yeah, I'm also protecting my bricks and mortar, and I'm the first great-granddaughter to own her own home. And that's pretty significant for me, because it's a tiny little camp. We're down to one bedroom. You sleep in the lounge or outside in your car, and be mindful we're on tank water. But come and visit, come and stay. But that's all we have. We're not ever going to go and buy anything bigger and better. That's it. So I'm protecting my home on country because it's that safe space to come to reconnect, to have my future generations come home and reconnect, because, hey, we're not all perfect families. It's as dysfunctional as hell out there. To make sure that we have a space for any mob to come home in a non-political situation, and just to be home on country, just to watch the black-shouldered kite doing his thing over the paddock, just to see the honey eaters every time those grevillea bloom and those bottlebrush bloom, and, you know, like, to come and be safe and reconnect with country is the main thing. Yeah, but we're suddenly all the white homeowners, they're suddenly seeing the country now. It's not just their bricks and mortar now, it's seeing the cultural landscape, it's understanding that thing they connect to isn't just through their wallets, it's through their heart, because that's what these fellas don't realise is country steals your heart. It'll take you, and especially if you love it, it'll just love you right back. And the mental health that we have suffered because big money and government just want to keep taking. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It don't matter what colour your skin is. It doesn't matter where your heritage is from. You've got to fight money. You've got to fight that money all the time. And that's what we're constantly doing down home because of our big industrial port, because of the softwoods, the plantations, you know, the smelter, and maybe this abalone monstrosity, if it continues. I'll be there fighting, don't worry. Because it just should not be that people can come in and just take over any part of land they want just because they need to put a bit more bunda in their pocket, you know, a bit more money in their pocket. So that's, and from that fighting spirit came from Mum and Auntie Sandra, yeah, because that's what they gave us, that strength and sense of self, sense of identity, and that sense of belonging, that your feet, when you jump out of bed in the morning and your feet touch that ground, you are connected to every single living thing there. And we are the voice for those other living things that don't get to sit here in these chairs and get mic'd up and yarn around. Yeah, we are all connected and we all have that voice for country. How that translates through law, LAW, that's up to you, mob, to help us out, eh? That really is.
Yeah.
I think that we give Ron Caston and Keon Cohen that fighting spirit because they went on, because they were the lawyers for the Onus versus Alcoa case, and then they went on to do Mabo. So I think us fighting Gunditjmara give them some spirit.
Yeah, very good.
Any questions?
You want to move this on, don't you? No. Don't I have to say to the old lady?
Does anyone have any more questions?
Jida.
We'll have one more question. I'm sorry, we're under a tight schedule at the moment.
Jida had his hand up.
I'll try to be quick.
Oh.
Thank you so much, aunties, for telling your story. I just want to know, because the smelter did get built in the end, so how did your case impact on the building of the smelter? Did Alcoa end up consulting with you at all, or it just went ahead? But the case was significant to create those other opportunities that ended up coming from it.
Yeah, it did build, and there was a point danger committee established for that area.
Yes, for the gannets, yep,
Yeah.
for the protection of the gannets.
Which Carrotmara representatives were a part of, yeah. And then many years after, Alcoa supported the Budgebin Sustainable project by funding that, yeah, contributing funds for that, yeah.
The irony is, though, where the point danger gannets are, there is a rifle range right behind it. So when you go and stand at the lookout to look at the gannets, there is a offshore gannet colony, but they were so popular that they moved onshore. And so you're standing with your back to the targets of the rifle club. So it's a bit disconcerting to stand there and look at these beautiful birds with the rifle range behind it. But that's just an aside.
And the smelter as well.
And the smelter's just there as well. But that's just irony. That's just, you know,
how we deal with
living on the
colonialism.
edge.
Yeah.
And that's what...
We've
that's
just got one question from Jida.
Yep.
Thank you. And just want to honour and acknowledge you, Aunties, for Gunditjmara, strong women warriors that continue that fight of resistance from back in the early days, Gunditjmara mob resisting the colonisers in very, resistance wars, and you continued that fight. And just so deadly to hear the story today. I just wanted to perhaps ask the aftermath of that, and you just mentioned that the smelter continued on, but what was the community's spirit after winning that case? Was everyone uplifted, and how has that relationship with the white community progressed since then? Because I know now you got World Heritage listing on Gunditjmara country and native title, and the community's being strengthened and uplifted, and how has that progressed since the case?
I think that the case supported the future. The case sort of, that was the cornerstone that and where we are today. Yeah, I mean, we probably wouldn't have got native title. I mean, without it. So the case is very, and Mabo, so it's a very important case, and it continues today. Yeah, my daughter, she's a freedom fighter, Tarneen Onus-Bamblett, and I suppose some people here might know her, but yeah, so our family is still going. The Gunditjmara people, all Gunditjmara people are still going today.
And still educating the town.
Yeah.
So there was no celebration of invasion this year, but there was we did our commemorative yarn, dawn service, and acknowledging each other and acknowledging each other's strength and resilience. And we will obviously continue to do that, like all mobs on the eastern seaboard and the southern parts and coastal areas of this country do. We are constantly fighting. I actually wore this shirt the other day. It was up for Archie and Ruby's statue unveiling there in Fitzroy, and I wore this shirt and ended up, shush now, in IKEA, where I ran into some Portland people, and the first thing, and one of them was an old schoolmate, and the first thing he did was look at my shirt and was reading my shirt. So of course I had my dilly bag on and I got it all out the way so he could read my shirt. I was menopausal, sweating like a mad thing. But yeah, it made it like he read the shirt. And so for him, so here we are again. I was the only Koori kid at school for my times there. So I was just Amy or Oog, or I was just then. And then they realised who I was. There was the few kids there that would go, you're just a bung or an abo or a coon. Those ones gave me that identity in that town. I already knew who I was, but they gave it to me then in a negative fashion. So that negativity, I'm hoping, is slipping away. I'm trying to be optimistic and hope that we come together in a Rainbow Nation. That'd be beautiful. But seeing in Portland being known as the first white settlement, that can kind of, that can give you gut issues. That can make you go, this is such bullshit. Driving down the Henty Highway, living out at Dutton Way, like all them names. And it's not just those monuments and names of the colonisers that we want to kind of rack off. But it's also, then let's not forget the industrial savages that keep coming and that industrial invasion that continues, because they will not stop. They won't stop, and it is exhausting, and it is just about money, and I do need a lawyer to help me out. So,
and we'll talk about that over lunch.
and we'll have lunch about that.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.